Today's topic, induce action to reduce distraction. Welcome to TABLEscraps, short discussions about board, card, and tabletop gaming, submitted by the viewing audience and discussed with the viewing audience. Hey there everyone, and welcome to another episode of TABLEscraps, the live streaming show where we discuss a topic about tabletop, board, and card games with the live streaming YouTube audience. I'm your host, Chaz Marler, and today's topic of discussion, as with all of our topics, comes from one of the viewing audience. And the topic that is today's topic will be submitted by Jason Fritz, who asks the following question. Focus. I have been gaming with a group of friends for a while now, and it's common practice to have mood music playing in the background. The problem is that I get distracted or overstimulated and just can't focus. I know that I could ask them to turn it down, but I enjoy the music as much as everyone else. I'm looking for ideas on how to tune out noise and other distractions, or other games going on at the same time, for someone who has a short attention span. I don't want to lower the fun bar just so I can play a better game. Any ideas? So I'm going to go over just a couple of little ideas that I had on the subject, and then we're going to go over to the chat to kind of get some social media integration into this and get some more minds involved. But the very first thing that I thought of was the possibility of, well, I think if this is a problem that's affecting you, it may very well be affecting others in your game group as well who haven't wanted to speak up about it because they are just as worried as you are about ruining the gaming experience. So I think, as with so many other things, the first thing is communication. Communication is key. I would start a dialogue on the subject with the others in your game group, because you might find that others feel the same way. You might find that, it's something that others have been waiting for someone to bring up. So it might actually, in that way, almost solve itself. And then also there is just the possibility that a compromise might be the best solution. If you make it clear that you're not wanting to rain on the parade and you do enjoy the music, but, it is just distracting, maybe you could, alternate, have one game night where music's going and stuff, one where it's not, and kind of alternate that way. And that might be a good way, a compromise of some sort. Another form of compromise, instead of just completely just alternating, is something that I've learned. When I have a project on the computer or something that I am trying to work on, I have found from my own experience that say I have say I'm doing a web design project, and it's going to take me all day long. It's going to take me 8 hours of work to work on this project. If I turn on the music and try to dive in, I'm too distracted by the music, and I just have a hard time getting into the project. And even if I really want to listen to music when I start on a project like this, I will force myself not to at first. And I will wait until I work on it long enough that I get in the zone. And once I get in the zone where I'm working and stuff, then I will introduce some background music. Click, I'll turn on the background music. And what's nice is at that point, I'm focused and zoned in on the project I'm working on. And the music at that point almost carries me through it. My mind will be able to focus on the project. And when I start to hit that wall, while I'm still working, my mind will kind of start focusing on the music. But since I've entered the zone, focusing on the music a little more does not take me out of the project. I'm able to continue working. And my mind will go back and forth hour by hour between the project and the music playing in the background, and actually will help carry me farther with better productivity and better focus through the long, 8-hour session or something, than always having it on from the start or not having it on at all. So anyway, the point of that is maybe that is another form of compromise. Maybe if the music wasn't there at the beginning, but after about a half hour to 60 minutes, when everyone's starting to get into the game, then slowly introduce it. And if you're already at that point immersed in the game and focused on it, then it might be able to carry through without being as much of a distraction. So that might be another way to compromise with the others at the table. So anyway, there's just 3 little ideas that came from my dome. So let's go and see what is coming out of the domes of the others in the chat. And let's start today with a comment from Gazentia Fox, who joins us to say that this varies wildly from person to person. That's a very, very good point. For instance, like myself, on the autism spectrum, simple stim toys can help regulate sensory input, both from too much or too little, which can help focus. So that is a very good point and a very personal experience there being shared. So I think that that's something that can be applied at certain levels for lots of different people, depending on the person's own personality and where they're at with attention spans and stuff. So I think no matter where you're at, there's something in that you can unpack and can be a useful application. So thank you, Gazentia, for sharing that. Sasha joins us to post, "Don't be afraid to ask to cut the music. You are playing with friends. Explain your problem and there should be no problem. Everyone should have a good time, including you." And I think that is completely fair. I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench in that by adding something from Jason's original post that I didn't even address, but Sasha doesn't address, but maybe we as a group, if we have time, should address. And that's that he's not only mentioning the music, but also the potential distraction from other gamers around them playing. And that's something that you can't have turned off and slowly introduced. If you're going to be in a gaming club environment or a big group get-together where multiple games are going on, that's going to happen. So maybe some ideas on the best way to address that as well, in addition to the music, is something that probably we should touch on if we have time as well. Andrew joins us to say, "This is something that I dealt with for years in school. A few years ago, I started practicing mindfulness through meditation. You should try the app Headspace and their Take 10 program. Practicing mindfulness has helped me to singularly focus on things much better than I could. Meditation may seem hokey, but there is a lot of scientific research behind it." Andrew, that is actually an excellent point. Whether meditation or other mental exercise, memorization, or other focus exercises, I think a really good point about this is that increasing your attention or your focus can be improved with practice. It is definitely, the mind is a muscle that you can train in some respects to a certain amount to improve focus. So I think that is an excellent point that is worth mentioning. Practice and tools like that can definitely be helpful. Kabuki mentions, possibly ask for the music volume to be lowered a small amount. Maybe less volume would help some. And that's a really good point. And actually, that's something I have found with myself, whether it's environmental music playing while we're playing a game or also listening to something while I'm doing another activity, like I mentioned. I want to know if anyone else is in the same boat, because this might be something that is helpful. If the music is too loud, it can definitely be a distraction. But has anyone else ever noticed that if the music is too quiet, it can also be just as distracting? Is that just me, or has anyone else encountered that? And if so, simply turning the music down might actually not be the solution. It might be finding that sweet spot. Again, if it's something that affects people other than just me. But let me know if you have had that same experience with music volume. Let me know that. Thomas joins us by saying that I had the same way when I started reading books. I could not concentrate and read the same line over and over again. With practice, you can focus on the game and enjoy the music. That's a really good point, Thomas, and I've had that same experience when something happens and you end up reading the same line in a book over and over and over again. So I think that you mentioned practice on focus, which can help with not only reading but enjoying the game. So that's another vote for actually setting up some sort of practices for this. That's great. Let's continue on with another comment from Gazentia, who says, "But yeah, getting into the zone, if you can control it, helps. However, if I'm in the zone, I don't always notice that I'm hungry, etc. Many pieces of coursework have caused me to skip meals without noticing." That is a very real side effect of getting into the zone. I have done the same thing. I have had it hit like 7 o'clock at night and realized I never ate lunch because getting into the zone. Kazencha also adds that the pub where my friendly local game store has their weekly board game nights also has a side room with less games being played, and getting there earlier leads to other games kicking in as you progress. That's something that I was thinking about when the topic came up of the noise from other gamers. Thinking about, maybe there can be areas for quiet gaming and areas for more rambunctious gaming, even if it's just sitting on opposite sides of the room. That might help mitigate the noise factor. But again, not every gaming environment is going to be, going to allow that level of, noise versus quiet area separation. But it is definitely something to keep in mind and to facilitate for the gamers if possible. Jacob joins us to say, background music doesn't bother me nearly as much as phones going off. Constantly hearing text message notifications and ringtones can really distract me. Oh, that's a really, really excellent point. And I think that part of that is, music is melodious and has a rhythm to it. But a cell phone going off or an instant message notification, that's just a random bing thing popping out of nowhere that's distracting you. So trying to concentrate on it. Trying to concentrate on a game while there's constant buzzing, bleeping, and blooping going on can definitely increase the level of frustration and distraction. So silence your phone if you can. Sasha joins us to say that for the multiple groups in the room problem, talk about it with the organizer. Try to get a table in a corner, not the middle of the room, and sit with your back to the wall to reduce the effect. All of those are excellent little tips that can accumulate into a more focusable experience. And for the sake of this conversation, I'm pretending that focusable is a word that we all are familiar with. So, excellent. Let's continue on. The next comment in our episode comes from Kabuki, who shares that the worst distraction is that guy in the group who wants to have the football game on in the other room. Their attention is split and can be quite annoying. You know what? That is a little aspect of this that is true that we haven't talked about. Is not only having, what we've been assuming in this conversation so far is that there's just this background music and ambiance while the players are playing. But the player who actually is trying to do two things at once, is trying to play the game while watching a TV show or another game, that can definitely be a detrimental experience to all the other gamers and ruin their focus as well. I am guilty of checking my phone and stuff, especially like posting media things and getting pictures, whatever boat you're in, whether trying to play the game or by necessity having to be on call or waiting for a call from a family member or something. Just kind of keeping that in mind and mitigating the level of distraction that those things can cause can be really helpful to the rest of the group's focus. Next comment is going to come from Lauren, who says that I find if I am playing a game with less player downtime, like Ethnos, it is far easier to tune out what's going on around me than if there is a lot of downtime between turns. That's another aspect of this that actually is a very good point. The game itself can be a very major factor in this. Excellent example, Lauren. Yeah, a game that keeps the players engaged on other players' turns or has minimal downtime can definitely be something that helps. And so if you are looking to mitigate this problem, picking certain games might be a way to help. Maybe even picking those games like for the first games of the evening until everyone really gets into the zone, or maybe as the last games of the evening as everyone's starting to wind down. So excellent suggestion there, Lauren. And finally, we're going to wrap up this episode with a comment from Dustin, who says, selection makes a huge difference. A radio host or a classic song can pull the attention of the players. I find playing soundtracks for, say, video games are familiar and fun and not distracting. That's a really good point, Dustin, and one that I think is really worth experimenting with. One thing, though, of caution on that is very interesting is that is the music genres that if someone finds distracting or allows to help focus are going to vary from person to person. For example, I know that when I write scripts for Paradise videos, if I just sit down to write, sometimes it can be like pulling teeth. And if I listen to, something that demands your attention, like rock and roll or something, that also makes it more difficult. But I discovered that when I write scripts, classical music in the background really just helps me focus and write that script. So whenever I write, I actually will just turn on my classical music scripts, and that helps me actually create more content when I'm writing than listening to nothing. So the genre of music, that's definitely something that can be a very good thing to point out and experiment with. So thank you for your comment, Dustin. And unfortunately, that is the end of the comments for this episode. But if you have something that you wanted to say that did not get said, you are welcome to say it either in the YouTube comments below or over on the Pair of Dice Paradise Facebook page at facebook.com/pairofdiceparadise or over on Twitter where we are at Dice Paradise. Welcome your comments, your questions, and continuance of this conversation. And also appreciate the people who are helping to continue this channel going by contributing to the Pair of Dice Paradise fundraising campaign over on Podpledge. Episodes like this are made possible by viewers like you who have been supporting the show financially. So I just want to say that every little bit helps and it is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I have been Chaz Marler, who, along with the live YouTube streaming chat comment window, have been serving up some table scraps. Talk to you again soon. Thomas joins us and posts that I had the same way when Thomas joins us. This is how I talk when I'm trying to fill time and have nothing really to say. Gazencha also offers that the pub my friendly local game shop has weekly board game nights. But getting into the zone as I called it, if you can Pith asks if Chaz is tripping over his words because of the crab people. Yes, the crab people are cramming more words into my mouth hole than I'm able to get out of my mouth hole, apparently.